Dr. Natalie Allen is the Director and Urban Strategist at the Urban Advisory, an Auckland firm dedicated to rethinking our cities. Natalie is a leading thinker on urbanism in New Zealand. She specialises in designing neighbourhoods that enhance well-being and is passionate about supporting clients to innovate when it comes to delivering quality, resilient and people-centric developments. At Design Experience Series, Natalie will be sharing her insights on shaping citizen-centric communities, and we recently caught up with her to learn more about this and how we can better incorporate citizen-centric thinking into community and built development.
Citizen centricity is something I'll talk a lot more about, but I think a citizen-centric community in the simplest terms is about designing with the people. So it's not about for the people, it's not about by the people because they can't do it all themselves, but this idea of an equitable, transparent process. It's about partnership and collaboration to create spaces that are really accessible for everybody. And that's kind of the core of what a citizen-centric community is. It's interesting to think about New Zealand communities and whether they're ahead or behind. I think essentially there are many ways in which we're actually ahead. How inclusive we can be, although we've got a long way to go, is something that differs from many overseas communities where there are much bigger issues. But in many ways, I think we're behind on some critical aspects, and one of those is actually housing diversity. And I'll talk a lot more about the idea of a housing ecosystem and the way that we need to have much more diverse options because we are a very diverse community in New Zealand, and therefore it naturally makes sense. And I want to delve into what those options might be, how they can be structured and delivered, and what they might look like as well. Well-being can be such a complex term, and there's all kinds of ways that it's defined. In New Zealand we have the Living Standards Framework, but that really only functions at a macro scale. And so when we get into the built environment, we need to think much more about the daily life experiences of people and how they impact on our well-being. So well-being in a built environment sense is all about understanding how the environment around us can make our lives easier or not. I like to think a lot about convenience when I'm talking about the design of our neighbourhoods, and really understanding people and what's convenient to them is the essence of understanding well-being. There's a few ways that the built environment professions need to collaborate together to enhance citizen-centric communities. I think fundamentally it's about doing engagement better. So for too long it has been about biscuits in the local library, and really to have meaningful engagement where people feel part of the process is the beginning of doing citizen-centric design well. Also, key stakeholders need to be engaged, delivery partners. The idea of market engagement is something that's very undercooked in New Zealand, which I want to talk a lot more about how you can actually do those processes and bring them together in a way that doesn't push projects over budget, but does actually enable those projects to be delivered in a way that brings everybody together so that there's buy-in and ownership over the final product.